The envelope wasn't heavy, just honest. Thick, off-white cardstock with a gold-lined flap. No return address. No flourish. Just my name in his handwriting. The kind he used to fake my mom's signature on late homework back in 8th grade. I held it over the sink for a second, steam rising from a forgotten cup of ramen below. My thumb hovered at the flap. I already knew what was inside. The thing is, I wasn't sure what would hurt more. The fact that he invited me, or the fact that I'd open it. It had been 6 years since Emily and I split, 4.5 since I last saw Jason, and 12 minutes since I realized they were getting married. Jason Reed was the kind of friend you don't have to explain to anyone, because he's just there. From sandbox to student loans. From failing algebra to passing each other beers on bad birthdays. The guy who got stitches for trying to defend me in a high school parking lot. The guy who cried at my dad's funeral harder than I did. And now, the guy marrying my ex-girlfriend and asking me to stand beside him while he does it. The gold-embossed card slid out smooth. I expected calligraphy, a Pinterest-level production, but no. It was minimalist, clean. Their names in sans serif. Emily Carlisle and Jason Reed invite you. I had to sit down. The chair scraped against the old kitchen tile. I hadn't updated the place since Emily moved out. Same creaky cabinets, same flickering overhead light, same drawer that jammed unless you nudged it with your knee just right. Same emptiness, too. I don't know how long I stared at that card. It wasn't rage or shock, just something bitter at the edge of numb, like when a limb falls asleep, all static in memory. I hadn't heard from either of them in over a year. Not since Jason moved to Seattle for work. Not since Emily started dating someone serious, according to a mutual friend who still occasionally dropped by my DMs with vague updates I never asked for. I just hadn't expected this, and definitely not the handwritten note inside. You've always been my brother, man. No matter what, I need you there. Jay. Let me rewind. Emily and I dated for 3 years. We met senior year of college. Same elective, different goals. I wanted to coast through media and society to pad my GPA. She was genuinely fascinated by Marshall McLuhan and had a thing for underachievers with good shoulders. I wasn't great at relationships. Too much sarcasm. Too many video games. Too little patience. She was more. In every way. Smart, deliberate, quietly ambitious. She wanted a life that looked like a Pinterest board. Clean lines, throw pillows, matching toothbrush cups. I liked used mugs and late nights and friends who didn't expect anything of me. Still, we lasted. Until we didn't. The breakup wasn't dramatic. No screaming, no cheating, just two people realizing they wanted different things. And that pretending otherwise wasn't working. The only surprise? How close she stayed with Jason afterward. He was my best friend. Had been since kindergarten. We had the kind of friendship that felt like a sibling bond. Stupid jokes, inside references, random texts about sandwiches or parking tickets, or a weird mole one of us should probably get checked out. He was around a lot during my relationship with Emily. Third-wheeling with ease, always charming, always knowing when to leave and when to crack a joke to make the silence less heavy. I never thought twice about it, even after the breakup. But about a year after Emily and I split, Jason started seeing someone new. He didn't mention her name, just that she was cool, low drama, surprisingly into soccer, and had a laugh that could knock out traffic. I asked to meet her once. He said she was out of town. Then I stopped asking. The first time I suspected anything was about 6 months later. We were at a bar in Capitol Hill, his new neighborhood since the tech job. He was distracted all night, kept checking his phone, smiling at nothing. At one point, when he got up to take a call, I glanced over and saw the contact name flash on his screen. Emily. He came back pretending nothing happened. I didn't bring it up. Why would I? We were grown men. Exes were supposed to fade into the background. Besides, if something was going on, wouldn't he tell me? He didn't. That was the last night we hung out in person, until the envelope. I didn't text him back right away. In fact, I didn't text him at all. 3 days passed. I carried the card around like a stone in my pocket, kept rubbing the corner until it started to fray. I'd glance at it during red lights, tap it against my palm while waiting for the microwave. Once, I nearly tossed it in the trash, but my hand wouldn't let go. Then, on a Thursday night, around 9:30, he called. I let it ring out the first time. Second time, I picked up. "Hey," I said. Silence on the line, just long enough to feel intentional. Then his voice. "You got it?" "Yeah." A pause. "So?" I didn't say anything. He filled the air. "I know it's weird, man. I know how it sounds, but I couldn't not invite you. You're my... Look, you were my best friend. Still are, far as I'm concerned. You marrying her? That's the plan. No heads up?" He sighed. "I thought about it 100 times. Just didn't know how. I found out from a goddamn envelope, Jason. I know." That was all he said. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "It's complicated." Just, "I know." And somehow, that made it worse. The wedding was in 2 months. Outdoors. Wine country. Classy, but not over the top. A catered rehearsal dinner. A private villa for the wedding party. And of course, a best man who couldn't decide whether to show up or set the RSVP. Card on fire. I didn't RSVP. Didn't call back. Didn't text. I just existed. Went to work. Ate standing up. Scrolled Instagram mindlessly. And avoided stories where mutual friends might tag them. Told myself I didn't care. But I did. And I kept hearing her voice in my head. Emily's. The last time we argued. "You're so afraid of being hurt. You'd rather disappear than risk being seen." She wasn't wrong. 2 weeks later, I got another letter. This one was typed. Legal-sized envelope. Addressed to Mr. Cameron Price. Inside, a formal itinerary for the wedding weekend. My assigned suit color, charcoal. My speech time, 3 minutes, right after toasts. A short note from Emily, typed, signed in blue ink. "I understand if you don't want to come, but I hope you will. You are important to both of us, still are. E." I read it 10 times. My name never sounded so foreign. I folded it back up, set it on the kitchen counter next to the first envelope, and for the first time in months, I cried. Not big sobs, just a quiet, dry ache from somewhere behind my eyes. Like a memory too old to be sharp, but too deep to forget. That night, I took both envelopes and drove to the lake. Same one Jason and I used to fish at during high school. We'd sneak beers, pretend to know what we were doing, and talk about the future like it was some blank slate we could scribble anything on. I sat on the hood of my car and watched the water blur with the sky. Then I did something I didn't expect. I took out my phone, typed 3 words, "I'll be there," and hit send. It's strange what grief can feel like when no one's died. I kept telling myself it wasn't grief, that Emily was never mine to begin with anymore, that Jason had the right to move on, that I had moved on too. I told myself this every morning while brushing my teeth, while standing in the shower, while eating cold leftover pizza I didn't even remember ordering. And still, that RSVP sat in my stomach like a swallowed coin. I didn't regret texting, "I'll be there." I regretted meaning it. 3 weeks before the wedding, I got the first group email from the planner. Subject, rehearsal dinner, logistics and best man notes. Best man. That still didn't sit right. It felt like being cast in a role I hadn't auditioned for, like some cruel theater where I was expected to smile through someone else's ending. There were links to a shared folder, a tentative timeline for speeches, seating charts, even sample templates for optional light humor anecdotes. Jason had always hated structure. The Jason I knew would have torn that email in half and scribbled a toast on a napkin the night before. This version of him? Polished, prepared, market ready. It felt like watching a band you loved go corporate. The day I bought my flight, I ran into Eric. He was one of our old high school crew, back when we were all scrappy and reckless, and convinced adulthood would somehow spare us. He recognized me first. I was waiting in line for a flat white at a coffee shop near my office, scrolling Reddit with a tired thumb. Cam? No freaking way. I turned. He looked the same, just slightly softened. The kind of weight gain that comes from marriage and Costco memberships. We caught up fast. He was married, 2 kids, managed an office supply distribution branch now, still played pickup basketball on Thursdays, though his knees hated him for it. So, he said, you seeing Jason soon? I hesitated. Yeah, wedding. His eyebrows lifted. You going? Apparently I'm the best man. Eric made a face. Not mean, just unsure. I didn't realize you guys were still close, he said. We're not, I said. And just like that, the silence between us was heavier than the years. Emily and I had a lot of mutual friends. Friends who picked sides in quiet ways, unfollowed me, stopped liking posts, slid into her comments with heart emojis and "you deserve this" affirmations. But none of them ever asked what happened. Not really, because in their eyes, I had faded out long before she moved on. And maybe they were right. Maybe I didn't fight hard enough when we were ending. Maybe I made it easy for her to picture a life without me. A cleaner kitchen, more focused conversations, less defensive jokes. But even then, Jason? The weekend before the wedding, I drove to my mom's house. She still lived in the same place where Jason and I used to play wiffle ball in the cul-de-sac. Her fridge still had old Polaroids of us in Halloween costumes, me as a vampire, him as a crooked Superman. She was watching some British crime show when I arrived. Didn't expect you this weekend, she said, giving me a one-armed hug and a suspicious glance. I held up a brown paper bag. Brought banana bread. She smiled. So, you're either in trouble or emotionally constipated. Both. She didn't press. She never did. Just poured tea and waited. I told her everything. Jason, Emily, the wedding, the envelope, the note, my RSVP. She stirred her tea slowly, letting the steam rise between us. Well, she said after a while, you're not going for them. I looked at her. You're going for you, to see what's still there, and what isn't. I didn't reply. She reached across the table and touched my wrist lightly. You always needed to be the one who didn't care more. That's not strength, honey. That's fear. I flew out 2 days before the ceremony. The villa was tucked into the hills like a retreat for influencers. White walls, olive trees, that soft gravel sound underfoot. The wedding party was already there when I arrived, laughing, clinking glasses, talking about nothing. Jason came out from the main house. He looked happy, tanned, relaxed. Beard a little longer than I, remembered. Wearing boat shoes and a linen shirt, like he was auditioning for a vineyard commercial. Cam, that's he said, walking toward me, arms open. I didn't move at first. Then I let him hug me. It was weird. Not bad. Just off. Like hugging a version of him that no longer remembered the nights we got drunk behind the 7-Eleven or the time we bailed each other out after that stupid college prank with the traffic cones. You made it, he said. Yeah. He stepped back, clapped my shoulder. Means a lot. I nodded. He didn't mention Emily. The rehearsal dinner was surreal. Emily sat at the other end of the long outdoor table, her back perfectly straight, hair in a soft twist, laughing at something Jason's sister said. She didn't look my way all night. Not once. Her ring sparkled like it belonged there. And still, I kept trying to remember how her laugh used to sound at midnight, curled up next to me in sweats, no makeup, no script. That night, Jason and I sat on the patio with 2 beers. He passed me one and exhaled like he was bracing for a difficult truth. I owe you an explanation. I looked at him. No, you don't. He blinked. I do. I should have told you when it started. I was scared. Scared I'd lose you. You did. That hit. He nodded, staring at his beer. I didn't mean for it to happen. We ran into each other at a conference in Chicago. Just drinks at first, then more. Then suddenly it was months, and I hadn't told you anything. I didn't interrupt. He went on, voice softer. She was sad, lonely, said she felt invisible. We talked a lot about everything, about you, about how it ended. You were supposed to be my friend. I know. The silence stretched. He tried again. Do you hate me? I thought about it. About the nights I stared at my phone, wondering why he hadn't reached out. About the months I assumed I'd done something wrong. About the moment I opened that envelope and felt like the punchline to someone else's love story. I don't know, I said. And that was the truth. The next day was the wedding, and I still hadn't written a speech. I paced behind the main house, note cards blank, heart full of static. People were arriving, music was playing, a kid was crying somewhere. Laughter drifted from the catering staff, unloading trays. The whole world felt like it had moved on without me. Then Emily walked up. She looked different. Not just the dress or the makeup. She looked older, wiser, maybe even a little sad. Hey, she said. I turned. Hey. She looked me over, like trying to read something behind my eyes. Thank you for coming. I nodded. You didn't have to. I know. She swallowed. I never meant to hurt you. I know. That was all we said, and it was enough. 5 minutes before the toast, I scribbled something on a napkin. Not perfect. Not rehearsed, but real. When I stood up and tapped my glass, the clink echoed louder than I expected. All eyes turned to me. Jason grinned nervously. Emily held her breath, and I began. Good evening, I said, gripping the napkin so tight it crinkled like cellophane. A few chuckles. One person, Jason's cousin, I think, raised a glass prematurely. I looked at Jason, then at Emily. My mouth opened, and nothing came out at first. Then, I used to think love was about knowing someone, but I've learned it's also about losing someone and deciding who you still want to be afterward. That silenced the crowd. I could feel the temperature shift. This isn't the speech I thought I'd be giving when I pictured my best friend's wedding. Honestly, I didn't think I'd be here at all. I paused. Someone cleared their throat behind me, a waiter maybe. But Jason and Emily are brave in a way that most people aren't. Brave enough to believe in second chances. Brave enough to start a chapter with someone whose past isn't erased. Just rearranged. Emily blinked slowly. Jason's smile faltered for half a second. I've known Jason since he was 7. He once faked appendicitis to skip a math test. He once shaved one eyebrow because I dared him. He once punched a guy for calling me boring. And he once, just once, fell in love with the same woman I did. You could feel it, that slow shift in air pressure. No one laughed. But here's the thing, I said, breath hitching. I'm not here because I lost, or because I've forgiven everything. I'm here because I remember who we were, and I'm really trying to believe in who we still can be. My throat tightened. I raised the glass. To friendship, to forgiveness, and to futures we didn't plan, but showed up for anyway. The crowd clapped, not loudly, but enough. Enough to let me sit down again without collapsing. Jason reached over and squeezed my shoulder. His eyes looked glassy. Emily looked away. Later, at the reception, the DJ was playing some early 2000s hits, songs Jason and I used to blast in his Civic while yelling out the windows on summer nights. I stood near the edge of the crowd, sipping something dark I didn't remember ordering. Jason approached, loosening his tie. "You didn't have to say all that," he said. "I know. But you did." I shrugged. He looked at me a long time. "You meant it?" "Most of it." He chuckled. Then he asked something I didn't expect. "You still in love with her?" I stared at him. He didn't blink. I let the question hang there, let it settle between us like fog. "Does it matter?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah, I think it does." I looked past him, at Emily, spinning with her new mother-in-law, laughing at something someone said. Her smile looked easy, not forced, not performative, just distant from me. "I think I was in love with who she wanted me to be," I said. "And I kept failing at it." Jason nodded slowly. "I don't hate you," I added. He looked like that hit harder than I meant. "But I don't know if I can ever go back to how we were." His lips parted, like he wanted to argue. Then he stopped. "I get that." Then, "You should talk to her." She asked if she could say hi. We stood under one of those decorative string light arches. Emily's bouquet was on the grass beside her heels. Her makeup had started to smudge from dancing, but she looked more beautiful than she ever had when we were together. Or maybe I'd just finally learned to see her as something other than mine. "Hey," she said. "Hey." The music faded a little, or maybe my brain just quieted. "You didn't have to come," she said again. "You keep saying that." "Because I don't believe you really wanted to." "I didn't." "But you did." "I did." She folded her arms. "Do you hate me?" I let out a small laugh. "You really both rehearsed this line, huh?" She smiled. Then her face softened. "Cam, I never cheated. I swear, it wasn't like that. I would never do that to you." I nodded. "I believe you. I didn't expect to fall for him. And when I did, I hated myself for it." I said nothing. "I thought you'd call, that you'd fight for us. You said you wanted space. I didn't mean forever." We stood there, swaying in the breeze. Then she said, "I'm sorry." And it was the only thing I didn't expect her to say. I left before the final dance, before the sparkler exit, the cake cutting, the blurry photos, before I could pretend it meant more than it did. I walked to my rental car and sat there with the door open, night air brushing against my jaw. Then I drove. No music, no map, just highway, and the quiet hum of a decision not yet made. The next morning I woke up in a roadside motel 2 hours south, the kind of place with scratchy towels and a vending machine that eats your dollar. And for the first time in a year, I didn't check my phone when I opened my eyes. I just stared at the ceiling, breathed, and thought, maybe this is what starting over actually feels like. Not loud, not cinematic, just still. Back home, things look the same. Same dishes in the sink, same fridge light flickering, same loose cabinet handle. But the envelopes were gone. I'd thrown them out somewhere along the road, at a gas station next to a faded map of the state, wedged between a flyer for fishing licenses and a newspaper rack that hadn't been refilled since April. Jason texted a few days later. "Thanks for showing up. Means more than I can say." I didn't respond. I wasn't mad. I just didn't need to anymore. A week after the wedding, I got coffee with someone new. Her name was Natalie. We met in line at the dry cleaner. She laughed at the fact I'd worn mismatched socks for 3 days without noticing. She had that kind of laugh, the real kind, the kind you feel in your ribs. We talked for an hour without checking our phones. She didn't know Emily, didn't know Jason, didn't know anything about the way I'd stood on the edge of someone else's life and tried to smile through it. And for once, I didn't bring it up. But the story isn't over yet. Not because I need closure from them, but because I'm still figuring out who I am without them. The first real Monday after the wedding felt like a test, not of strength exactly, but of muscle memory. Would I go back to the same desk, take the same exit off the freeway, order the same gas station coffee on the way to work, and pretend nothing in me had shifted? Yes and no. The world looked the same. But I didn't feel like the same version of myself moving through it. I wasn't mourning Emily anymore. Not exactly. I was mourning the idea of permanence, of friendship that couldn't be undone, of love that didn't change shape, of loyalty that didn't have footnotes. That night I pulled out the shoebox. It was on the top shelf of my closet, under a pile of winter scarves I hadn't touched since February. Inside, a movie stub from our first anniversary. A Polaroid of Jason and me at 21, holding up beers mid-laugh. A handwritten card from Emily. Thank you for teaching me that quiet can be safe. The key to our old apartment. A broken zipper from Jason's backpack. From the hike where I twisted my ankle and he carried me 1.5 miles like a human crutch. A dried rose, flattened between 2 napkins, from a sushi place we used to order from on rainy Fridays. I sat cross-legged on the floor and laid it all out like evidence. Not of a crime, but of a life. And slowly, I began to put things away. Some back into the box, some into the trash, some into a new envelope I didn't seal. Just addressed to the version of me that thought this would last forever. A few days later, Jason emailed. Not a text this time, not a call. Subject: I know you probably won't reply, but... He said he and Emily were heading out for their honeymoon. Croatia, then Italy. He said he hadn't stopped thinking about our conversation on the patio, that he didn't expect forgiveness overnight, that he still wasn't sure how to be both happy and ashamed at the same time, but he was trying. He attached a photo. It was from the reception. Him and me clinking glasses, both mid-laugh, both a little blurry, like we were moving faster than the camera could catch. The caption underneath was just 3 words. Before everything changed. I didn't reply, but I printed the photo, pinned it to the fridge next to a grocery list and a coupon for laundry detergent I'd probably never use. Not because I wanted the memory, but because I needed the reminder. Some things don't need closure. They just need to be carried differently. A week passed. Natalie, the woman from the dry cleaner, texted. Coffee again? I want to see if you finally matched your socks. I smiled. We met at a bookstore cafe this time. She wore a mustard yellow sweater and smelled faintly like eucalyptus. We talked about childhood injuries, irrational fears, bad tattoos. She didn't ask about past relationships. I didn't volunteer. It was easy, unscripted. She made fun of my phone case. I told her she blinked too much when she laughed. We made a bet on who could find the worst poetry book in the store. She won, hands down. Odes to My Ferret was unbeatable. As we walked out, she said, You seem like you've been through something. I stopped. She said it lightly. Not fishing, just observant. I looked at her, really looked at her, and said, Yeah, but I think I'm finally walking out of it. She nodded. Good. Keep going. That night, I deleted Emily's number. I didn't block her, didn't unfollow, didn't rage post. I just deleted it, quietly, without announcement. It felt like taking a splinter out, small, sharp, relieving. A month later, I got a wedding favor in the mail. A small glass bottle with dried lavender inside, a tag tied around its neck with twine. J+E. Thank you for being part of our story. No note, no message, just a gesture. I didn't know what to do with it. So I set it on my windowsill, not out of sentiment, just because it looked nice in the light. I saw Jason one last time after that. It was by accident. A networking event at a downtown bar for some mutual industry contacts. We didn't plan it, didn't avoid it either. He saw me across the room, made his way over. We shook hands, that was all. No long talk, no rehashing, just one line from him. You look lighter. I smiled. I am. He looked relieved, like maybe, just maybe, the wound wasn't as permanent as he feared. Then he went back to his corner, and I didn't follow. That weekend, Natalie and I drove to the coast. She packed snacks, weird trail mix combos with dried mango and spicy peanuts. We listened to old 90s rock on the way and made up backstories for the drivers around us. At one point, while watching the waves, she said, "You ever feel like you're watching your old life from the outside?" I nodded. All the time. She leaned her head on my shoulder. We didn't say anything else. And in that silence, I realized something. I had finally stopped asking why and started asking, what now? But this story isn't finished yet, because closure isn't a door that slams shut. Sometimes it's just learning how to leave the window cracked. It rained the morning I realized I was okay. Not in a poetic, movie soundtrack kind of way. Not in a grand, thunder-cracking epiphany. It was just Tuesday. The blinds were open. The window fogged. The rain slid down in neat, slow streaks, and I was sitting on my couch in mismatched socks, finishing the last slice of toast over a chipped plate. And I didn't flinch when Spotify queued up a song Emily used to love. I didn't skip it, didn't brace for it. I just let it play. Jason and I never had a final talk. No dramatic closure. No, we'll always be brothers scene. We just stopped reaching for the same friendship. Like a house neither of us lived in anymore. But we both remembered where the light switches were. And maybe that's okay. Maybe you don't need to go back into the house to know it's empty. Natalie and I didn't work out. Not because she reminded me of Emily. Actually, the opposite. She was easy to be with, laughed at all the right moments, sent me articles she thought I'd like, texted me just to say, "The clouds look dramatic today." She was, in every way, the calm after the storm. But that was the problem. I wasn't calm yet. We had lunch one afternoon. Corner booth, Thai place, with too much basil and everything. And I just said it. I think I'm still grieving something I don't fully understand. She nodded, didn't try to fix it, didn't tell me I was broken. Just said, "I hope when you figure it out, you come find me." And that was it. She hugged me outside her car and drove away. I haven't seen her since. But sometimes, I still look up at the clouds and think, she'd like these. A few months passed. Seasons blurred. I started seeing a therapist. First time in my life. Told him I felt like I was trying to be two people. The one who forgave and the one who never would. He said, "You don't have to choose. Some grief you carry, some you lay down. Either way, you move." I moved, literally. Got a new apartment on the other side of town. Smaller. No shared walls with ghosts. I got rid of the couch Emily picked. Got rid of Jason's beer mugs. Donated half my closet. Bought a new desk, one that didn't wobble, and started writing again. Not stories, just thoughts. Journal entries. Lists of things that made me laugh. Things I didn't notice when I was busy being angry. I ran into someone who knew both of them. A mutual friend who hadn't picked sides because she'd moved to Portland before it all went sideways. We had coffee. She said, "They're doing okay. Jason works less now. Emily teaches part-time. They adopted a dog. I smiled. That sounds like her. They still talk about you. I shrugged. People talk. Jason said he has dreams where you two are playing ping pong in your basement and you never say a word to him. Just keep returning every serve. I didn't know what to say. She said, "Do you miss them?" I thought about it for a long moment. Then I said, "I don't miss them. I miss who I was when I thought they were forever." I used to believe betrayal was a single moment, a crack, a bang. Something you could circle on a calendar and say, "This is where it all broke." But it's not. It's slow. Like mold behind a wall. Like letters you don't open because you already know what they say. Like the silence between texts that gets longer and longer until you start pretending it's normal. Jason didn't betray me the day he kissed her. He betrayed me the 100 days before that, when he chose not to tell me. When he sat across from me and talked about everything but the thing that mattered. Emily didn't hurt me when she fell for someone else. She hurt me when she stopped seeing me. When she started looking past me, even when I was standing right in front of her. But here's the thing. I survived it. Not gracefully, not cleanly, but fully. Now, I'm good. I've got new routines. A Sunday morning tradition. Walking to the farmer's market, even if I don't buy anything. A playlist called Songs I Thought I'd Cry To But Didn't. Friends who don't know anything about Jason or Emily and love me anyway. Quiet nights that don't feel like punishment anymore. A chipped mug I refuse to throw away because it makes my tea taste better. Or maybe just reminds me that not everything broken needs to be replaced. Sometimes, I wonder if they ever talk about me. If they ever sit on their porch and say, "Do you think he's happy?" I hope they do. And I hope the answer is yes. Because it is. I'm happy. Not all the time. Not every day. But in the kind of way that feels earned. Like a scar you stop hiding. Like breath you didn't know you were holding finally exhaled. I saw Jason once more, almost a year to the day after the wedding. Grocery store parking lot. He didn't notice me. He was loading groceries into the back of a dark blue SUV. Emily was in the passenger seat, laughing at something on her phone. A dog barked from the back seat. He looked tired. Not unhappy, just older. And for once, I didn't feel anything sharp. I just turned, got into my car, and drove away. Not in a bitter rush, just forward. If you're still reading this, maybe you've been there too. Maybe someone you loved someone else. Maybe your best friend became a stranger. Maybe you're carrying a quiet ache you don't know how to name. Here's what I can tell you. You'll be okay. Not because it gets easier, but because you get clearer. You learn what parts of yourself were real and which were shaped around someone else's absence. You figure out what's worth holding and what you're finally ready to set down. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.